hopefully 2 August episodes of the Wise Guy Sports Show here on the Big Rican on Sports podcast, which means it's clean tonight. It's not going to be crazy.
Damn.
Knock it off. I am one of your hosts, as always, the Big Rican on Sports, Mike Martinez, and with me, as always, is my partner in crime, I won't say the Robin to my Batman because Matt Harvey's not there anymore. How about the Spider-Man to my Iron Man?
I'm not a Marvel fan. The Batman to Robin.
You're killing me. Just stop it then. Just stop. We're done. Mr. Jason.
I am the Larry Zbyszko to your Mike Tenay.
James, we're 49 seconds in, and we've gone Larry Zbyszko and Mike tonight. Anyway.
Come on, oh!
You're too much, man. So, now, James, since the last time you and I have had conversation, there are a few things have happened.
I have no idea as to what you're speaking of, Mr. Martinez.
Well, let's try this first, as I'm trying to, and I apologize if I'm looking off to the left. There's two reasons, and I told Jim this earlier. Number one, Jacob deGrom is throwing a one-hit shutout on the TV. And number two, I am trying to get the live stream on my Facebook page to play here so I can watch everybody's comments. I want to thank everyone who watched the Big Rican baseball show with Alex and I. Willie couldn't get on. His older son was actually in town, and he came over. So obviously Willie was hanging out with the fam and going from there. So here's really where we're at, James. Had a suspension in Major League Baseball. I mean, this was supposed to be, after the Tatis trade, this was supposed to be the end-all, be-all, the best lineup in the game, the scariest thing you could run into.
The team that was going to
run
so
much anymore. I tell you what the Dodgers did to them was very impressive. What the Dodgers did was very impressive, and that's in beating them as handily as they did. So I don't know quite what to say about the San Diego Padres other than Fernando Tatis has been suspended 80 games without pay on a PED infraction. Now, the joke is that I see Robinson Cano had a huge impact on the team while he was there.
That's better than the joke I was going to make.
What were you going to say?
I was going to say he got, he claims it was for ringworm medication. So I was going to make it. You remember the old Cleveland hardcore band, Ringworm?
Jesus.
What? There was no Schnauzer medication? But then again, we'd actually be doing a disservice to the mayor of Parma, God rest his soul, Jim Tanya.
No, I agree with you. Jim, I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess there are a lot of players on the San Diego Padres who are not happy right now.
I think not.
Which I don't get why he did what he did. I'm going to have to do the Facebook thing on my phone to look for the comments. It's not coming up on the tablet. So we'll shut that down. And then the only reason I look over there is for Jacob deGrom. So I said something to Alex, and I said it to Willie, and I said it, I believe, in our pod chat that we have between you, me, and Alex, that the most important move at the trade deadline was not Juan Soto. It was not anybody else. It was the fact that the New York Mets activated Jacob deGrom on August the 2nd. So far, he has looked like the guy who had a 1.08 ERA last year before he was injured. To go with Max Scherzer in his sub-2 ERA, to go with Cookie's got 13 wins.
And if I'm looking down, I'm actually pulling up that group chat between the four of us. And
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I actually didn't respond to a lot of those. I've been dealing with a high ankle sprain all week.
Oh, you're on the IL?
I got a brace on my ankle. I actually hurt it working out, doing MMA the other night. I go to throw a punch and my body moves, my ankle doesn't.
Hey! We're getting older, James.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm on the shelf for the next 2 weeks, easily.
What I wouldn't give to have at my beck and call the Frank Caliendo high ankle sprain thing from Gronkowski and doing Madden. You want the high ankle sprain as opposed to low ankle sprain.
Give me until the party next month. You may get your wish. We're going to save that for the final segment because there's going to be a couple of announcements we have about that show from both of us for all of you out there.
Absolutely, and that's coming. It blows my mind. I mean, the other day, Bobby's 16 months now. I know. But more importantly, I want to jump topics now. You said 3 weeks. It can't be that Saturday night, James. It can't be the 3rd. And do you want to know why it can't be the 3rd?
Yeah. It's
college football starts in 3 weeks. How did we get here already?
Yeah, and we also got a little other college football news that we're going to dive into. But yeah, you sent me that on Facebook the other night. I nearly threw up in my mouth a little bit, but it's
knock it off.
But I'm like, yeah, I can't believe it's already here. We had preseason football this week. Something that we'll cover in segment 2.
Yeah, no, I don't want to do that right now. I'm in a good mood. Well, I mean, when we're on your page, I will reenact the chant that happened in Jacksonville last night.
I mean, we could probably find a way to do a clean version.
We'll wait on it. So we're 3 weeks from college football, which means 3 weeks from maybe the most anticipated game pre-conference season in Ohio State and Notre Dame opening up at the Horseshoe on September the 3rd. It is the primetime game. So getting into college football, let's keep it in the Big Ten and in the Midwest. With the huge media announcement made last week that ESPN has been cut out of Big Ten broadcasting. I know you have looked at what the contracts are looking like. Of course, with ESPN being out of it, you now are looking at NBC, CBS, and Fox will be broadcasting the Big Ten in its entirety. Now, listen, I love Herbie. I love Fowler. I think they are great in the booth. However, I call them ESECP NFL for a reason. They have been shills for that conference since they decided to let Paul Feinbaum join the company. What now? I know you did due diligence on this. I know you did. You're the research guy.
Correct.
I have no time, so as I'm putting together a little surprise for you later. But Jim, what does this deal entail, and how bad did ESPN take it on the chin?
As I pull up my notes, the terms of the deal, ESPN backed out of the deal on August 9th. They've actually been affiliated with the Big Ten going back to 1982. This means you are correct that CBS, NBC, and Fox are all going to reap the benefit of this. The Big Ten title game has been broadcast on Fox since 2011, and the game has been broadcast on Fox every year since 2017. This also means the SEC on CBS expires after next season, not 22, but 23. And CBS is going shopping, and they've already agreed to a 10-year, $3 billion deal with the SEC starting in 2024. In terms of
Wait, is that ESPN or is CBS that agreed to that?
that's going to be CBS, ESPN.
So CBS is not out of the SEC game.
Technically, they are. That deal expired. The SEC on CBS expires after 23, and starting in 24, they go exclusively to ESPN networks.
Okay, so starting in 24, it's going to be NBC, CBS, and Fox for the Big Ten. ESPN is going to be basically and by extension ABC, I would think.
Correct.
Is going to be the SEC network, basically.
Correct. Now, the terms, I could not find the exact terms of any of the deals with the Big Ten with CBS, NBC, and Fox, just because they've already got an existing deal with Fox. The Big Ten network is underwritten by Fox. And we don't know what the streaming packages are going to look like with the CBS family of networks or NBC, especially because now the one thing I did see is not only is it going to mean an afternoon game on NBC, but it's also going to be there's going to be like an afternoon or a primetime game shifting exclusively to Peacock every week.
Okay.
So the exact terms of this are out there, but if it's anything like the SEC deal, I'm sorry, with CBS, we're talking several $1 billion.
Yeah, I would think it's going to be a high money. And of course, this is what it's money is what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
College football is not about student athletes anymore. Let's really stop playing games with that.
Right.
But here's the interesting part of this, James. And I said this to Willie. I said it to you. I said it to Alex. If NBC is going to become a prime network for the Big Ten, how quickly does Notre Dame jump ship and become a Big Ten conference member? Especially with one of their big rivals now being in the Big Ten, starting in 24 with USC.
Let me approach that by going another direction. Who's to say that NBC doesn't dump the contract with Notre Dame with everything that they could be bringing in with the Big Ten and watch Notre Dame maybe go elsewhere? Maybe forcing them to, like we talked about on our last show, maybe having to join the ACC or another conference out there.
They're so synonymous with NBC. I don't know if they could afford not to join the Big Ten at this point in time. But let's speculate. Let's say they do it. Let's talk about some of these games that are going to be broadcast, because now, and I'm going to say this from merely the standpoint of being a college football guy, because I don't know if you heard on the baseball show last week with Alex, I will not do a Cleveland Browns centric episode this season.
Let me interrupt for one moment. I just pulled it up. Notre Dame's deal with NBC runs through 2025, where they are garnering $22 million per year from the network. I'm not sure if you can hear me. I just lost the audio on my end. Okay, there we go.
Now I'm buffering. Hang on.
And we apologize for any technical difficulties. Mike's actually having a little bit of an internet issue. I'm actually testing out a new microphone tonight, so we ask if you could forgive us for any technical issues throughout the course of the evening.
I'm back. Anyway, so does NBC's deal cut out after she did 2025 for Notre Dame with NBC?
Correct. And so starting at so after the 25 season, Notre Dame is essentially free agent.
Okay. So Jim, let's play speculation real quick. let's play. Let's put our. And I know I'm talking college football, and I got the Mets one on, but again, Jacob DeGrom is throwing a 2-hit shutout. So, let's talk a little speculation. Let's talk they get into the Big Ten come 2025. That means the Big Ten will then have, you ready for this? Every major media market north of Mason-Dixon will belong to the Big Ten. With the LA market now that they will have with UCLA and USC, Chicago, of course, with Northwestern. You have the Ohio contingent in Columbus or Cleveland and Columbus and Cincinnati. Rutgers is in Metro New York. They have Pittsburgh and Philly with Penn State. You have Detroit and that place with the team up north and Sparty.
You also already have Indianapolis between Purdue and Indiana.
And the Big Ten championship game, which is in the house that Peyton built at Lucas Oil every year. Are they coming to take this thing over? I mean,
one more we forgot, Milwaukee.
We forgot the Wisconsin. So basically, every major town north of Mason-Dixon is Big Ten country.
And with the possibility of, for all we know, by the time 2025 gets here, we could actually still be looking at Portland and Seattle.
Yeah, that's if Washington and or Oregon come over. I think Oregon would be the better fit there, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but there's something about, that would be for the Nike deal. But I think, honestly, if they're going specifically for, dollars for markets, if you had to choose Oregon versus Washington, I think you take Washington, you leave Oregon at home.
I don't know if I agree with that, to be honest with you.
Portland market.
Yeah, but I don't know if I agree with that, only because if you want to go for markets with this, you got to get Stanford to get the Bay Area.
Well, here's also the other thing we forgot about is that if you actually get the Seattle market, you also have, with their TV stations and the crossover, you also tap into that Vancouver area.
That's true. I didn't think about Vancouver. I didn't think about Vancouver because I don't think the CFL is really football.
I enjoy the hell out of the CFL, man.
It's not that I don't enjoy it.
I'm a Blue Bombers fan.
Oh, here we go. I followed the Argonauts when Flutie was there. But, yeah, I mean, this is huge for the Big Ten. I know when I saw that deal was coming out, I was like, wait a minute. I'll be honest, I think Notre Dame's going to end up in the Big Ten. I think there is no way that they don't end up in the Big Ten now. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, ACC before, when NBC wasn't in bed with the Big Ten with this gigantic media deal, but now it just doesn't make any sense. It honestly doesn't make any sense for them to stay out of the Big Ten.
Logistically, you would think so with the proximity of the fact that they're right in the right smack in the middle of Big Ten country, but you also got to look at all the other programs as well. Because again, as we talked about with Alex a few weeks ago, they're only affiliated with the Big Ten and hockey. Everything else, they're affiliated with the ACC. That's why I'm thinking ACC is because logistically, first of all, it bolsters that conference, especially with Clemson being a top 3 or top 4 program in the country for the last 5 or 6 years. But it's also, they wouldn't actually have to worry about exit strategies and fees for like buying out the other one of their intramural programs.
I mean, I get the ACC thing, and I understand they play a pseudo-ACC conference schedule. It just seems like for as long as I've known about Notre Dame football, and having moved from upstate New York out to Northeast Ohio where you are, I didn't learn about Notre Dame until the year they played Florida State in 1993. Because college football here is Army, Syracuse once a generation, between a great player like Jim Brown, Ernie Davis, Donovan McNabb. We get that, but outside of that, we don't get much in college football in this area of the country. Rutgers, I don't think, had a football team when I was younger.
I mean, they did. It's just they were in the Big East and they were winning 2 or 3 games a year. But the thing with Notre Dame is it could go either ways because you also look at who they typically schedule. Michigan, Michigan State, and Purdue are on their schedule every year. But then again, so is Florida State, USC, which actually is now going to be another Big Ten team, Tech. So I mean, they could go either way and not have to adjust their schedule too much because you're already going to have a couple of those programs on their schedule already. They're going to end up losing, their affiliation with the military academies. They're going to have to break that.
Well, Ohio State's played Army and Navy since I have been, I will call the lunatic fringe of Buckeye fandom, which was really when I came back here and I really dove face first in. They played the national championship year, they opened against Navy. A few years ago, they played Army at the Shoe in the middle of the season. So it's not that they're not playing those teams. It's that it's kind of a one-off every few years that they get one. And I get Army plays Notre Dame a bunch, as does Navy.
Yeah, because you exactly stole my thunder with that. Is that it's not a one-off against those teams where you could potentially rotate those 3 teams every year. You're actually playing all 3 of those teams in your schedule every year. And BYU.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. I'm looking forward to college football this season. I am going to try and get an Ohio State preview out before the season starts. Obviously, I got 3 weeks to do it, and I got another Wise Guy show with you and lots of other stuff going on, too. Like my wedding anniversary is in a couple of weeks.
Back in the middle of a pennant race. We might come back to that here in a little bit. So
we're going to come back to that because I am so jacked up, it's not even funny. And I got something to introduce that segment, by the way.
Ruh-roh.
No, it's good. I promise you. I've lost my train. Okay. So let's talk about what this could mean to no longer having conferences in college football, which I think is coming faster than people think it is. Is your dream schedule for a team like an Ohio State or a Michigan to play games in Tuscaloosa, bring them up here, play Auburn, play each other, get USC involved, get Wisconsin involved, get these teams involved that you don't play all the time that can create the marquee matchups? Or do you try and leave enough room in your schedule for your rivalry games? Do you go out and make the big splash, or do you keep the rivalry games to keep your fan base happy, more or less?
Let me answer your question by posing one of my own. Let's actually, How many power conferences, how many super conferences are you predicting are going to come out of this whole thing? Are you predicting 3 or 4?
I think there's only 3 left, to be honest with you. The Big 12 has had to dip into the group of 5 to fill themselves out.
By the time this is all said and done, we're going to have the SEC magistrate. We're going to have the Big Ten magistrate. The ACC is probably going to end up getting a little bit larger as well. And then there's also the rumor of the Big 12, Pac-12 merger, although neither one of them wants to say it. So technically right now we've still got our 5, but we all know that the 3 on the outside have got to start consolidating something. So are we talking,
I think
talking 4?
It's going to be 3. It's going to be 3. And the fact that the Big Ten, they're the Big Ten. The fact that the Big Ten is okay. We're previewing the season together. That's it.
I'm not saying quite just because now with the NIL deals, I think you're going to see USC's resurgence a lot faster than people are going to think.
No, I think you'll have the NIL deals will do that. And then I want to say something to you that I was thinking of the other day. I don't think the Big 12 is set up to succeed. Now, I don't know how that happened, considering the Big 12 has 2 Heisman Trophy winners in the last 5 years, and 2 guys who went number 1 overall in back-to-back seasons coming out of Oklahoma. Of course, Texas did the dip and went to the SEC.
So did Oklahoma.
No, Oklahoma was staying in the Big 12. It was Texas and
It was Texas and Oklahoma.
I thought, that was the joke. Lincoln, okay. Lincoln went to the Pac-12 because he didn't want to play against real competition, and then all of a sudden he's in the Big 10. Okay,
Yep.
You're right. I remember. It's got to be 3. The Pac-12 and the Big 12 are going to have to merge. The ACC and the SEC are going to have to probably merge, and with the northernmost ACC teams going to the Big 10.
Like your West Virginias.
Your West Virginia, Pitt. The Backyard Brawl is going to be in the Big 10.
Ooh. As a kid who grew up a Pitt fan, I would love to be able to see Pitt every year.
You're not going to see Pitt every year because if you get to that level, unless they don't schedule any cupcakes, which the Bucks don't schedule many. They're not playing the week before rivalry week against Middle Tennessee State or UT Chattanooga. I think we're headed to 3 power conferences, and I think we're headed to 1 giant there's not going to be any big power conferences anymore within the next 5 to 10 years.
Okay, then let's actually go back to let's go back to the original schedule question here with this. I think, first of all, when this finally shakes down in the course of, let's actually just say 3 to 5, you're going to see a couple of things. First of all, I think you're going to see the schedule expand to maybe 14 games, maybe even 15, because they want to act like the NFL. You're going to actually have them playing close to an NFL schedule. You might actually have them starting earlier in the year, and then you're also going to end up seeing us in expanded playoffs because you're not going to have a choice. You're not going to have three power conference, 3 super conferences, or 1 gigantic conference and only be able to get away with 4 teams. You're going to see a 16-team playoff at that point.
No, I don't think they're going to get away with the 14 playoff come 2 years when the TV rights expire with the SECP NFL.
So if we're talking, let's say for the sake of argument, let's say we're doing 13 games, your conference championship, and then the 14 playoff. I think you've got to schedule. I think they would have to set up 10 of those in the conference. Possibly, maybe even go to 11. You know what? Let's expand the schedule to 14. Let's go 11. This way, it actually eliminates a lot of ties, tie-breaking procedures because you got that crooked number. And then you got your 2 out of conference. You put 1 out there that might be a cupcake, and then you actually play, and then it rotates. You play 1 team from one of the other power conferences every year. So, like this.
Do you like the home and homes?
So this year you'd actually get, yeah.
Okay. So this year,
or you actually say, hey, we'll do a home and home with you, but we're not going to play. We're playing 1 less conference game.
Okay. So here's the other question I had, and someone had posed this on Twitter when the whole thing came out about ESPN being shut out of the Big Ten, which, again, I will be upset since Herbie is an Ohio State guy. I mean, when you talk about game day, you were talking about how Fox has broadcast the game every year since 2017. The last year ESPN broadcast the game was 2016, which, of course, is the 2 versus 3 absolute war that was that game, which, by the way, was 10 years to the day after the 1 versus 2 game.
Wow.
It was 10 years to the day that they beat, what was it, 49-30, something, 49-42 or something like that. It was the second most points scored ever in the rivalry.
Mm-hmm.
That 1 versus 2, and then, of course, 2 versus 3 was the first one that went to overtime. You know, game day was 5 hours that day. It started at 7 a.m.
They had to.
Well, I know they had to, but here's the kicker. So you look at the game day lineup. I don't know where Chris Fowler went to college. Pardon me. Look it up, stat boy.
Already doing it.
Thank you. But 3 of your big 4 on that dais every single week. Herbie's a Buckeye. Desmond's a Wolverine. And oh, by the way, Lee Corso coached at Indiana.
Fowler was a Buffalo.
Colorado. So you've got Pac-12, and the rest of it's the Big Ten, except for David Pollock, who went to Georgia. And you've just shunned their conference.
Yeah.
So somebody put up there, well, the SEC is the most popular and they are the best football, to which I responded to the guy. If ESPN was your personal highlight reel, yes, you're going to want to go to an SEC school. Think about it.
Yeah, because also let's think, why is the SEC, and I pondered this earlier this week, and my personal philosophy is the only reason why the SEC is as popular as it is in the South is because really outside of Atlanta, the 2 or 3 markets in Florida and Louisiana and Charlotte, you've got tons and tons of other teams, but you've got no NFL markets in that area.
No, you really don't.
Exactly. You've got 2 great teams in Alabama. You've got 2 very good teams in Mississippi. Their closest NFL competition, you would actually have to go either to Charlotte or New Orleans.
Or Tennessee.
Right.
I get why it's so popular.
Kentucky's got to go to Tennessee.
Yep.
Clemson's got to go to Charlotte.
Yep.
Boston College, it's Boston College to Foxborough is no picnic.
No, but BC at least has, and when we talk about the markets, remember, there's not a lot of professional sports teams in that area of the country. Think about it this way. Baseball, there's 2 teams in Florida. Miami and Tampa. You got the rest of that state, nothing.
Right.
Except for in spring training. And there's no major league team in either of the Carolinas. The joke is there's no major league team in Virginia. Sorry. Yes, I took a shot at the Nationals.
You know what? Technically, you're right, and I forgot about the 2 Virginia teams. Yeah, that's the other thing is they either have to go to D.C. or Baltimore to catch an NFL game.
Yeah, I mean, and just like I said, professional sports in general. Now, the NFL, Florida has 3 teams. They got Miami, Jacksonville, Tampa. New Orleans, of course, has the Saints, or Louisiana has the Saints, but Bama doesn't have a team. Mississippi doesn't have a team. Missouri doesn't have. Well, no, yeah, they do. Kansas City. Mississippi doesn't have a team. Bama doesn't have a team. There's a joke that Texas has no teams. So it's really, I get why college football is so big. But the thing that bugs me is they keep saying how it's a better football down there. And I keep saying, guys, if you put the Big Ten and the SEC side by side and you compare them, you can pull a team for every team in each conference. The Big Daddy who wins it almost every year, Bama, Ohio State. The little brother who gets them every now and again, Auburn, Michigan. The team from the weaker side of the conference that seems to win it every year, Georgia, Wisconsin. The team that beats the big dog from the other side every now and again, Florida, Northwestern. The pretenders, Iowa, Tennessee.
I'd almost actually put Michigan State over Northwestern.
I'm talking about from that other side of the conference.
Yeah.
Because we all know the SEC East is the weaker of the two, is the weakest link in the SEC.
Right, because it's
the Big Ten.
It's Georgia, it's Florida, and there's everybody else.
The Big Ten West is the weakest link in the Big Ten. Because in the last few years, if you think about the run Ohio State had with the 4 consecutive Big Ten championships,
Back and forth. Yup. The
it was Wisconsin, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Northwestern. Iowa's played in that game once. Nebraska played in that game once because of default, because Ohio State was on probation. Michigan State's played in that game twice. 1 year against Ohio State and the other year when they pulled that miracle off in the horseshoe. Other than that, since they've gone to a Big Ten championship game, it's really been Ohio State and Wisconsin there almost every single year.
Yep.
And like you said, Harbaugh finally got one last year. James Franklin got one a few years ago, but you can find that in the SEC as well. Auburn gets one every now and again. LSU gets one every now and again. Georgia's gotten one. Florida's gotten one. Missouri.
For a long time.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Missouri, back when what was the name of the defensive end that he came out when he was in college? He played at Mizzou.
And I'm a Mizzou fan, and I'm thinking of a couple of them.
Michael Floyd's not right. Is that it?
No. Michael Sam.
They went to the SEC championship game that year. What's his name? The old ball coach. Spurrier took South Carolina there. There's your Michigan State, your Michigan, your Penn State, your Iowa. They're the same thing. Just one has Nick Saban and ESPN in their back pocket, and the other one has Ryan Day and Jim Harbaugh and the better rivalry games. Paul Bunyan's Axe is a great game. The Illabuck, the Oaken Bucket, the game. I am going to be sad that we're not going to hear Brad Nessler call another Iron Bowl in a few years.
Yeah. But let's also be honest, is that, after Vern Lundquist, retired, Nessler became the face of that, but him and Danielson are, they've actually got to start looking for replacements because they're definitely not spring chickens.
No, they're not. And if you're talking about...
Here's the thing that you're going to love. You know who's going to be the voice of your Ohio State Buckeyes on TV in 2 years? Gus.
Gus already is.
Right. But now it's going to be official. It's not just going to be 1 or 2 games a year. It's going to be predominantly every week.
Being very honest with you, there are a lot of games, even that Gus and Joe call, that I listen to Paul Keels.
I have no problem with Paul Keels. It's Jim Lachey, as we very
Jim Lachey is a bigger homer than Hawk Harrelson ever was. I agree with you. But you know what, though? They make a good tandem because Keels is so even keel. Get it? And, sorry.
No, you're not.
I'm really not. Did you see what I started off the night with?
Nice.
You know what? I thought to myself, why not?
Yeah, because the last couple of times we've done Wise Guys After Dark or actually had a couple of cold ones, you've actually passed. But it's good to actually see you coming to the dark side. Welcome home.
Yeah, right. So speaking of welcome home, we've been on almost 40 minutes, and we've done predominantly all Big Ten in college football. So I will extend the invitation within the next couple of weeks. I will do an Ohio State preview, and I'm not going to do a full team preview. What I'm going to try and do is a couple of years ago during the COVID season, I actually did an Ohio State pregame every week. I did a Browns pregame every week, which will not happen this season.
Right.
So let's you and me in a few weeks dive in. Ohio State, Notre Dame, let's break it down. Let's talk about the coaching because that's a huge thing, especially with half the Notre Dame staff being Buckeye alum. Let's you and me break it down. You come from the Notre Dame side, I'll come from the Buckeye side, and we'll do one of those like helmet meet in the middle things like in the 90s on TV.
That would be fun. I might actually even get us a special guest to be able to take your side for that night.
Well, we know that come November, when I do the preview of the game again, I will have you on there to hate as much as you can. And I will have Willie on to actually preview the blue side. So let's get into the pennant race. As Kyle Schwarber faces Trevor May with the Mets leading 1-0 in the 8th inning. Ooh, Trevor dropped a hook on him. I like it. Let's talk about the American League Central Division leading Cleveland Guardians. Jim, no one saw this coming. When you had names on opening day like Stephen Kwan,
Miles Straw, Josh
Miles Straw,
Andres Jimenez, yep.
Jimenez, I told you, was the key to that deal. I guarantee you Lindor would not be a Met if the Mets didn't want to part with Andres Jimenez. So let's talk about what's worked for them. And let's talk about a team that is hitting the cover off the baseball right now. We were talking last night on, well, I saw you put it up on Twitter as Schwarber flied out, the most electrifying moment in baseball is going to happen in about 10 or 15 minutes.
The horns.
It's queued up. That's all right. Did you see Mr. Met had 2 different color eyes last night when Scherzer had the ball?
Yeah. I figure if I'm wearing a team that we're not even talking about tonight, I can stomach your Mets fandom for one episode a month.
This is too fun. So back to the Guardian, and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go like that, but I just saw Schwarber popped up. They stood pat at the deadline. They is it Nolan Jones, the kid they promoted?
Yes.
Who's looked good coming up. I have kept my eye on him a little bit. Obviously, Natalie on Twitter is just absolutely in love with this team.
Yes.
Now let's talk about what people are thinking.
As great as Guardians, as great as the Guards are to follow on Twitter, she's just as entertaining.
I agree. So let's talk about the temperature at home with this team that was not supposed to be here. They were supposed to compete for a wild card at best. And they're leading the division. What do you feel have been the keys to the Cleveland Guardians' run to the top of the AL Central?
Small ball.
I knew you were going to say that too.
Lots and lots and lots of small ball. And they're getting great production right now out of the front 3 in the rotation, including Tristan McKenzie, who you remember earlier in the year I was not completely sold on. But Beebs is coming around, and they're playing a lot of small ball. They're eking out a lot of wins, although they kicked the snot out of Toronto last night and lost a heartbreaker today. But losing, snapping that 6-game winning streak. 7-3 in their last 10. They're actually within a run of Minnesota for overall differential right now. And oh yeah, I posted it earlier this week on my Twins blog. I saw a scenario where by the time we came up with this show that the Guardians and the White Sox could have eclipsed the Twins, and I was that close to being right.
No, you absolutely were, and I agreed with you. I didn't get Jim. I'll be honest with you. Between training at work and then the schedule I'm keeping with coming home and everything else, I haven't had a chance to read that one yet. So I honestly think that I really thought you were going to be right. I really did. I thought they were going to catch him. They both were going to catch him. But the Tim Anderson injury is not going to help the White Sox. Alex is ready to start, I'm pretty sure he's willing to put out a hit on Tony La Russa. The question is, can they sustain this? Can they get this thing done? Because I don't think they get a wild card. The East is too good.
Right. They're going to have to win the division to get in. I don't honestly know because they've not been in this position, because you notice every time that they've been right on Minnesota and overtaken them the 2 times this year, they've gotten no further than a game and a half, 2 games up, and then they just slide back. Now the good news is for them, their schedule is going to line up very well over the course of over the rest of the month. So it would be a perfect time for them to put some distance, between them. But who knows if it's going to happen?
It's not easy to extend leads. I mean, look what happened to the Mets earlier this year. They had a 10.5 game. They had the 10.5 game lead. The Braves went out and won 14 in a row, and now, I think it's 6 or 7 now, after what they did last weekend. I'm gonna tell you my favorite.
5.5 as of right this second.
The Met lead is 5.5. Oh, it's because Atlanta played a doubleheader today.
Yeah, and they're up. Atlanta's up 4-2, so you figure they hold on and win that one. It's 5, and depending on what you guys do,
we're up 1-0 in the bottom of the 8th against Philly, and Diaz is getting ready.
So it holds. If everything stands pat, we're still stuck at 5.5.
Okay. Which I'll take because the Mets get Atlanta for 4 Monday through Thursday of next week. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think they can do this. And the main reason they can do it is McKenzie, Bieber, Savali, and Plesac. Their pitching's been lights out.
Yes.
Which is funny because today I'm flipping through Facebook while I'm sitting here, and all the walk-offs from 95 came up as a video I'd want to watch. That team did not have the pitching this team does. This team hits just as well situationally as the 95 team did. They had a lot of home runs in situations that need to hit a home run. This team moves guys over. They play small ball, like you said. They have their few bashers, and J-Ram, which, by the way, that ball he hit out in Toronto last night, he looked like he was left-handed golfer, Mike Weir or Phil Mickelson.
Right.
The way he golfed that thing out of there. I love Naylor. He's a lunatic.
Did you see the bunt that Quan rolled down last night?
I did not.
He put I think they were trying to extend the lead, and he lays one down that literally stays, I kid you not, it's about that far. That's only about 2 or 3 inches off the line going down third, and they let it roll, and the ball rolled all the way down to hit the bag.
You can do that?
It might have been one of the most perfect bunts I've ever seen.
You can do that on the carpet. But it's skill. It's extreme skill.
Yeah, well, they actually kept watching it, thinking the spin on it was going to turn it foul, and it never did.
That's crazy. I got to tell you, I love hearing about him.
He's back up to nearly 300, which means he gets hot again. Look out.
Who's leading the American League in hitting? Do we know? I love throwing these out at you.
You start buffering by jumping all around here. It's Arias from Minnesota.
What's he hitting?
332.
Quan's not going to catch him. He's going to hit like 450.
Jimenez is at 307 in second, tied with Bogarts and Devers.
What a disappointment Boston's been.
Yeah.
How about Chris Sale can't ride a bike?
Here's the other thing is that Hosey, 92 RBI, sitting second. The only guy who's actually ahead of him right now is Aaron Judge, who's basically parking everything in the seats under the sun the last month.
Yeah, Ramirez is third in Major League Baseball in RBIs.
Yep.
Who's second? It's Pete Alonso.
Yeah, I've only got this separated by the American League. League.
He's got 97. Uh-oh.
Don't you do it.
I have to. I feel like I'm in a National Treasure. Don't do that. It's got to be done. Now I'm buffering on this, and it's starting to annoy me. Oh, here comes the ads. Come on. So for all those who are listening and don't, or watching or listening and have no idea what I'm about to do. You can play the trumpet with me, Jim.
You're on your own.
That, of course, is Narco by Blaster Jackson, Timmy Trumpet, as Edwin Diaz has taken the mound in the top of the ninth inning in Queens to put the finishing touches on a Mets 1-0 win, hopefully. So let's pivot. We're on the fence. You think that the Guards are going to have a tough time? I think they're going to get it done. Let's pivot to what my boys are doing right now. I said to you earlier, I'm going to say it again just so everybody that's hopping on now, and we've got, oh, wow, a bunch of people just popped on. The biggest acquisition at the trade deadline was not Juan Soto. It was Jacob deGrom being activated by the Mets. Now you have a 1-2 punch that could end up in Cooperstown. And all they've done in their 3 turns in the rotation since he came back, Scherzer won. DeGrom got a no decision. Scherzer went 7, struck out 11 Atlanta Braves. DeGrom was perfect into the 6th on Sunday. Scherzer pitched really well last night. The Mets unfortunately didn't get it done in extras. DeGrom goes 6 2-hit innings, and now Diaz is in there. By the way, he's 26 of 29 in saves. Now I want to talk about awards real quick. His strikeout ratio will break the all-time record. We're at like 19 per 9 innings with him. He struck out more than 50% of the batters that he's faced. And now he's up 0-2 on Bryson Stott. A 93-mile-an-hour slider dotted on the outside corner and 100 past him. This is the guy the Mets wanted in 2019. And if they would have had this guy in 2019, we're talking about a team that, and ground ball to Guillorme, 1 out. If they would have had this guy in 2019, the Mets would have made a run to the playoffs in 2019, possibly saving Mickey Callaway's job. I know I think I talked to you about it. Did you see what happened last weekend with Atlanta?
Yes.
They had the 5-game series. Listen, Cookie was dealing on Thursday night. Taijuan Walker got lit like a candle on Friday. And then they had the double play or the doubleheader on Saturday where they won both games. I got to respond. We got comments on Facebook, Jim.
Nice.
An old friend of mine, Mr. Rick Schatz, who his wife Melanie is 2 years younger than me, went to school with us. He just said hello. I want to see what he's got to say. Big Cleveland fan. He's out in Streetsboro. So, hey, Rick. Hi, Mel. I see you're watching, too. So, here we are. You take 4 out of 5 from Atlanta and make a statement. Do they have to win 3 out of 4 on Monday to really put any question of if they can win this division to rest, or do you think they can get away with a split at the beginning of next week in Atlanta?
I think you've actually got to get to that 2 or 3, because if you're looking at 4-1, the door is wide open here. You've got to pick up at least 2 out of these 5.
Okay, so they have to at least split. Well, it's 4 this week in Atlanta, so you got to win. So you got to split in
Yes,
Atlanta.
you got to get at least the split because if you end up losing 3, I mean, that lets Atlanta back in the door because 4.5 is easily able to chase down.
No, I agree. Having lived through the collapses
Yeah.
of 2007 and 2008,
Yeah.
I remember those things. And they're doing it all sorts of ways. I don't know if you saw Francisco Lindor is now one RBI away from having the all-time record for a single season for Mets shortstops.
I did not.
He's 5 home runs from having the all-time record for most home runs in a season by a Mets shortstop.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way,
sometimes I have to giggle at obscure stats like that because it just reminds me of Mr. Baseball. I led the club in 9th inning doubles in the month of August.
ninth inning doubles in the month of August. I remember that line.
Such an underrated movie.
It really is. It really is. Another underrated Dennis Haysbert movie.
Yes. Yep.
Oh. You know what else came on my Facebook timeline? Speaking of Dennis Haysbert and this stuff here, someone did the scene from the first Major League when they're in the clubhouse, when they find out she's trying to sabotage him, and Taylor says there's only one thing left to do.
Yep.
And they superimpose guys on the Mets' faces on it. I had a real problem with the guys they used. They had Alonso being the guy to say win the whole effing thing, which I get. But they didn't have anybody good on DeGrom on Charlie Sheen. Why?
Ace of your rotation.
That's true. Fly ball to right. 2 out. Okay. He's not striking dudes out left and right. I'm getting a little nervous, not going to lie.
Paying attention to that, and I got the Brewers and Cardinals on in the background. 1-1 in the 8th, and if Milwaukee wins this, we've got a mathematical tie in that division again.
That's going to be those 2 central divisions are going to be the dogfight.
Yeah, because everything else right now, it's like well, then again, the Yankees are coming back to earth a little bit more. Yeah, but really, if you think about it, everything else is very, very close to
5 games or more.
Yeah.
The Dodgers have run away and hid. The Padres added Josh Hader, Juan Soto, Josh Bell.
And they've been 5-5 since the trade. They won 5 in a row. Now, one of those was actually right before the trade, and then they won 4 in a row after the trade, lost 5, and then won 3 in a row. So they're only 5-5, but yet the Dodgers are playing so well that lead is up to 16 right now.
Well, the West is over.
Yeah.
But if it ended today, the Dodgers and Mets would get the buys because of the new format.
Right.
Dodgers and Mets get the buys. Atlanta would have to play San Diego. That'd be a great series. And Milwaukee.
Actually, no. Atlanta would have to play Milwaukee of the 2 highest
because of the records.
Yeah, if they go by the records, because the Cardinals have 62 wins, the Brewers have 60, Braves are at 68, Padres are 64. So if you're actually formulating it down by, schedule and standing and everything, yeah, you know what, you're right. It would actually have to be Atlanta and San Diego because St. Louis would actually have to play the lowest of the 3 wild cards at that point. So it would be Milwaukee.
Yeah. So Milwaukee's going to play Philly.
Yeah, and here's the other aspect about this is that if you look in the American League, you've got the Astros and Yankees get the byes. Guardians would actually have to play the Rays, and then Jays would actually play the Mariners, and Minnesota gets shut out by a half a game.
Wow.
Tampa is 59-53. Minnesota is 58-53. So
No kidding.
Minnesota has led that division all but what, maybe 10 games, really all year, and they go
Well, yeah, the
on-
Guards had a lead for what, 2 or 3 days?
right, and they've only had and they've only been in first place since what, Tuesday, like Wednesday, Thursday, something like that. So, and if the season were to end right now, they're in, and Minnesota's sitting home.
That's crazy.
But then again, we also thought that, the Squealers were actually going to run away and hide starting the season 11-0, and then lost their last 6, including a playoff game, and went home after the first.
Yeah, but everybody who's anybody knew that was a joke.
Right. But we've seen stranger things happen.
Yeah, I've seen my boys blow a 7-game lead with 17 to play.
Yep. Wow, the Yankees are only 2-8 in their last 10 and lost 3 in a row.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Do not sleep on the Baltimore Orioles either.
Yeah, I love it.
They're only 2 back in the wild card right now.
That's a humongous. And they got rid of Trey Mancini. They got rid of Jorge Lopez.
They were sellers, and they're still playing lights out baseball. And another team, the Mariners, had a little skid coming out, and now they're getting hot again.
Well, the Mariners they made themselves right against the Yankees.
They did. I mean, they're still 11 back, and they've only picked up a game on the Astros. But I mean, they are sitting pretty. They've got the number 1 wild card right now.
Yeah, that's going to be huge. I've talked about Seattle earlier in the year. Mitch Haniger might be the best player no one talks about.
Right. You know what? You're completely right, because it originally was going to be Julio, and now everybody talks about Julio.
Yes.
So would we like to pivot to our last topic of the evening, because we're now over an hour? Only because we have to.
Not to sound like the 3-year-old who doesn't get his way. I don't want to. For everybody who's watching on Facebook, my phone actually just died.
We wouldn't be pseudo-journalists if we didn't, man.
Pseudo being the operative word. My phone just died, so I apologize if we don't get any other comments out of Facebook. I'm going to say that out loud now. It just shut down on me. But so thank you for everybody who's watching. So last night, Deshaun Watson made his debut in a Browns uniform. For anyone who has ever seen the movie The Boondock Saints, Mets win 1-0. Diaz just struck out Castellanos to end it. So the lead will stay at 5.5, unless Miami comes back. There was a scene in the movie where the boys and their buddy Rocco go and take out Mafia Hitman. And Rocco actually kills him by beating him with a cue ball. And for those who have seen the movie and know it well, what Rocco kept saying is he bludgeoned this man with the cue ball is what the Jacksonville fans serenaded the new Browns quarterback with last night.
It looked more like an old ECW show.
It really did. Now, I will say this. Browns Twitter, you throw shade better than anybody else. Baker actually had a wide receiver run the wrong route, and he threw the ball where it was supposed to go. And Browns Twitter's like, see, he's terrible. Pay attention. I will say this. The defense did impress me a little bit last night. They did play well. You had I wrestled the ball away from the guy interception, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And again, I don't hate this team. I don't. I'm angry. I think they've hurt themselves for the long haul, and that's just me. But he's. What did you think of the apology?
I thought it was a sham of epic proportions. The fact that Aditi Kikabwala actually volunteered, or whether she did or she didn't, is irrelevant. But somebody with her level of credibility having to sit there and stomach that and put on a smiling face, Natalie will be the first to attest that, yeah, it's she was probably told to go out there and do that.
I don't understand how. I just don't. I don't understand. I mean, the jokes are writing themselves today. For the way he handled what his numbers were last night. I think I saw he threw for 7 yards.
1 of 5 for 7 yards in 3 series.
And someone said that he had 3 times the amount of cases against him as he did yards he threw for.
That is true. Actually, more than 3 times, yeah.
3 times plus. So, having said all that, again, I'm not going to do a Brown-centric episode. Am I going to talk about him? Yes. I still find them to be a fascinating team. But I will not really dive into a ton of their content this year just because. But again, having said that, the defense didn't look terrible for as long as the starters were out there. I think they're going to have to rely on this defense because I don't know if he's going to have enough of the rust off to be, and especially if he's going to get a bigger suspension now. I don't know if he's going to have any real leeway to knock the rust off.
Well, this is the first time we actually conversed since the suspension came down. We know it's 6. We know.
You mean the 30 lashes with a wet noodle?
Right. What do you, even after the appeals, what are you hoping for and what are you expecting?
I'm hoping for the year and a hefty fine. I'm expecting exactly what he said he was willing to sit through, which was 8 games.
And 5
No, I think they hit him harder with the money.
Yeah,
which
I think what I was reading was he was willing to accept 5.
Well, you're willing to accept 5, buddy, but you're going to have issues if you think you're if you think you're going to get away with this. That's
Right.
the problem. I don't understand because I read the ruling. Did you read it? Because I know people had shared it.
I've actually seen portions of it. I have not read the entire thing, but I mean, I do have bullet points.
I find it very funny that what she called him with the word predatory.
Yes. And cereal.
And cereal. And there was not more. There was not more games to this. I think that was a mistake. I believe he deserves a full season. For those who are denying that, in my opinion, I firmly believe that your logic is off. The independent arbitrator called him, said his action. She didn't call him a predator. She said his actions were predatory. That's a problem, guys. That is a problem. I think there's a lot of people who are going to be shocked. And then on the lighter side, we find out the National Massage Therapy Convention is in Cleveland this year.
Yeah. I'm expecting 10.
Really?
I'm expecting 10, no less than 10, and an 8 million fine. I'm hoping for a year and at least 8 to 10 million, which would mean by the time he comes back, he'll have sat 2 full years. So it's basically uh, Browns fans are going to be collectively intertwined with Steelers fans because they're going to have a starting quarterback coming back on their roster who's not going to have played in 2 years. Remember when the Steelers did it with Mike Vick?
Yeah. The thing that kills me about all of this is that now Kareem Hunt is asked out. Miles, if he's got a brain in his skull, will ask out. Because the resurgence of the franchise started with Myles Garrett. You can say what you want about Baker and Denzel and all these guys. The resurgence of this franchise started with Myles Garrett and seeing how good he was. So, yeah, I'm going to let you take I've kind of run my mouth about this enough tonight. I'm going to need another one of those if I keep going.
Yeah. I think the only reason he got 6 was because there was no precedent for something of this nature. We remember what happened with Ray Rice, that there was a violent act, as Judge Robinson alluded to. But the independent counsel handling the appeal here, I do think that this gets increased. I think it gets increased a lot more than certain people are going to be comfortable with. And I'm hopefully not stealing a lot of Natalie's thunder, and we're really hoping to have her on here before too long to go into depth about this. But I think the acts were not violent. The behavior bordered on it to an extent. And I think anyone out there who is apologizing for this or saying, hey, all he did was massage therapist, it's not like he raped the women. You're either one of two people. Either you're a Baker hater or you're a Browns apologist and are basically putting a chance at a Super Bowl over morality, which means you're an idiot. And I had to watch my mouth there.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. But I would have understood if you made this, parental advisory. I feel the same way. And look, for those who are still listening and watching, I'm sure there are going to be comments coming out in the next couple of minutes that people are going to go after us. We're not trying to be the moral police here. As I have said through the many times Jim and I have talked about this, and I'll say it again, I have very, very large on-field questions about this move. And I've had very large on-field questions about this move from the moment it was even thought about. Having said that, now that we are to the point where judgment has been quote-unquote levied, now let's get to the other side of the argument, because now it just seems like it's not enough.
Right.
It's not enough, in my opinion. So let's go to the final topic, because my back's starting to hurt. I'm in a folding chair with a pad on it, so it's not exactly.
I got a call from a family member I haven't talked to in years. My father's over there, so if they're still somehow awake, I know where I'm heading here in a few minutes.
So let's talk about the other thing that I asked you to look into earlier today. Because I have my opinion on this. You know my opinion on this. But it has come out recently over social media. And by the way, he's grown and he looks a lot better as a player, too. The person we're going to bring up. I've watched some of the highlights online. He's facilitating and has a better jump shot than his old man already.
And a lot of people are still on his defense, too.
Yeah. So it's being rumored that Bronny is going to go to college. He's going into his junior or senior year at
He's 17, which means he's probably going into his senior year.
Depending on when he turns 17, yeah.
Right.
But Bronny is going to go to school, and USC, UCLA, Duke, Ohio State.
The 5 that I've read are Ohio State, Oregon, USC, UCLA, Michigan.
I thought, okay, no, because he said he played for Krzyzewski, and of course, Coach K retired. I could have sworn Duke was on there, but no matter.
Originally it was, but that has changed.
Good. I can see the chat on here. Good. Sorry, I didn't think I could see the on the old one I used to do the streaming with. I could see the chat. I didn't realize I could see it on here. So I can shut this off. So, anyways, if Bronny goes to school, now it's a different animal because now it's not 2 roster spots. Is he coming home? There are people in the media in basketball world that believe he should and think he's going to.
I still don't see it. I still don't. I think he wants to. I think right now they are so set up for to be able to dominate this conference in the next couple of years, regardless of what happens with, Durant and where he decides to take his ball and wants to go next.
Don't get me started on that piece of garbage.
Or whatever Miami might be plotting. They are young. They are this talented, and they knocked on the door, and they shocked a lot of people. And now they are about ready to not only kick in that door, but take an axe to it Nicholson style.
I like where your head's at. Yeah, I think they can get this done. Look, for the nostalgia factor, yes, we would love to see them bring him home for one last run. Could he be the voice of reason and not reason, the voice of experience and the voice of championship glory that they could need to get over the hump? Yeah, I think there's, as good as Kevin is with that, he's got 4 titles. He's been to the finals 10 or 11 times.
He's also 38 years old, and he's been banged up a lot in the last couple of years. Whereas Kevin, we all know, it has been banged up. But Kevin, when he's not on the floor, he's basically a coach from the bench. They don't need a floor general. They need somebody to be able to keep the guys motivated when they're on the bench. And that's why I don't think he comes back, because there's no place for him. Kevin's in a perfect role right now.
No, I hear you. And I guess it's the heartstrings in me that really wants to see him come back, run one back, win a title at home again, and then let's be done with it. Hang him up. Buy the team and win 5 or 6 more.
I mean, regardless of what happens the day he hangs them up, he's opening day the following year, unless they're raising a banner that says championship and unveiling rings, his name's going up.
I don't think they would do it on opening night. I think they would do it on birthdays in December.
Well, it actually would also have to depend on what happens the year before. I mean, if they're raising like a division champion banner or a conference championship banner, yeah, they don't do that. But if they're like a 5 seed and they go out in the first round, sure, do it opening night.
Well, I mean, I get it, but I would do it on a more significant date than opening night. Because opening night, you think about the rings, you think about that stuff. It's really going to be overshadowed across the league. This will be the first place that number will go up in the rafters, so it's going to be a big night media-wise. Yeah, I think it's the heartstrings in me that wants him to come back. And we've said that before. Or I've said that before, that I would like him to come back. But, you might be right. With the way you say it and the way this team is constructed, he might not be the answer to a title. Hey, we could be talking about this in 5 or 6 months, Jim, and they could be on their way to being the top seed in the East and getting this thing done.
And they've got the experience of getting that close to the top of the East last year with the injury bug as young as they are. Now you actually add a couple of really good young rookies. You bring in another veteran in Brooke Lopez with his pedigree.
You know what?
Let's see what happens.
That might be the most underrated move of the offseason. What do you say we do the next one? We both wear the Cavs shirts.
I'm down.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's, again, pennant race. So, real quick, let's discuss on open air what we're going to do for our little birthday celebration, as it were. Our first episode, the high school reunion episode, going back, was what date again? September of last year. I know that.
Yep. We have a little surprise for you guys before we log off tonight, but the date of that episode was September 4th, 2021, entitled High School Reunion. The first official Wise Guys Sports Show was October 23rd of last year. That was the What's in the Box episode. That was officially that was not the pilot. That was
the high school reunion was the backdoor pilot, and this was episode 1.
Right, but still, it was the Wise Guys. We just hadn't called it the Wise Guys yet.
So we are going to have a birthday celebration. Do you want to do it next month? Or do you want to do it in October and really do it big? Because we do it in October. We're doing this during the World Series. We're doing this. Could you imagine if we do this and it's a Guardians-Mets World Series?
You know what? We might actually think about doing it because not only do we have postseason, we've also got the opening of Cavs season. I got the opening of hockey season. We're right smack in the middle of the NFL and college football season.
So let's do the 1 year around the 1 year.
You know what? Let me actually throw the invite out there. What if we do a 2-hour episode? We might even go a little earlier. We do our normal show for an hour and then we blast it out for the second half.
That sounds good to me. You still got my audio? Because I don't know why, but my video just cut out.
I got you. There we go.
Sorry. Live TV? Yeah, I think we can try and make that work. Time constraints are really my thing because usually we want to start this right after Bobby goes to bed.
But the difference is we're going to be bringing on anyone and everyone we can get our hands on. All of y'all are invited. We're going to line up a bunch of guests for that night.
Yeah, I got to talk to John because that would be fun. Alex has already said he's down. I'm sure Willie would be down.
Wise Guys Elite. Yep.
The Wise Guys Elite. We got to make that T-shirt for him.
Before I go any further, I'm going to try and figure out how to get this done. We have a very quick surprise for you guys tonight. Mike, please don't say anything just yet.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to share with you.
Oh, yes, I do know what you're talking about. I'll bring it in.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Wise Guys Show. Our official logo is complete.
And I got to say thank you to you, Jim, for getting that done. That was huge. I know we've been talking about it for some time now. You have time at work to do things like this. I unfortunately don't. I tell you what, though, what my wife was saying earlier, if you do that up top, it's like up here. I don't know if you can see my cursor on there.
Yeah. It's that's actually, this is the, I don't want to say it's an unofficial logo, but it's the official logo, but there are going to be a few tweaks. There's our individual logos, like my Roundel logo and Mike's Big Rican logo will be added to that, but that is the master template of our logo that you can actually go to my page, jcbluenote24.blogspot.com. You'll actually be able to see that on the Wise Guys page I have set up there that has all previous Wise Guys recordings, including links to all previous Wise Guys episodes, not only on my channel but Mike's channel. And for those of you also who see that and see that there's video but no audio, that's actually because those shows are being done on my page to where Mike does not have the audio because of his family-friendly account. And I'm not saying that to slight Mike whatsoever. But you can actually see that on my page. And then there's also one that Mike has where the scripting is orange to represent the Mets. So so you might actually see that in different alliterations, depending on whose page you're going to. But our individual logos will be added to that here by the time we see you guys again in September.
Well, listen, it has been an hour and 25 minutes. We've touched on a lot of topics, which we normally do. And I got to tell you something. Do you know what we didn't do tonight, Jim? We didn't go off the rails.
In the first 3 minutes, we did.
Well, yeah, but the first 3 minutes are always weird with us. But once we get going, we usually will deviate.
Right. One other thing we actually did want to share with you guys, starting probably next month, although it's definitely going to be in October, but by the time you guys see us in September, not only are we going to be on YouTube and Facebook Live, but there's also a very, very good chance you're also going to see us simulcasting on Twitch.
And it might just be on YouTube and Twitch. I haven't decided if I'm going to keep it on my personal page. But if we go from there to Twitch, it's just going to be a personal preference thing. It's also going to be a thing where we can get the audio out in the podcast form on the different places where I can be found, because it's tough with trying to download everything. I'm using a Chromebook that has my work stuff on here too in case I have to work from home. So there's not a ton of memory on it that I can really play with.
Now, the Twitch streams will actually be able to go live just like you're watching us now, but the Twitch streams only archive for 2 weeks as we are free members. I'm actually considering, gaming on Twitch a little bit. They just added a Twitch app to my smart TV, so I'm like really, really getting back into Twitch anymore, although a lot of the gamers that I follow have kind of made the jump from Twitch to YouTube. But I figure it certainly opens up the audience a lot more. It's a little bit more interactive. You guys don't actually kind of have to censor your comments or anything on Twitch, for any kind of feedback. But it's something we've been kicking around for a little bit, and we decided, we are going to pull the string. We're just not sure if we're going to do it with the unofficial anniversary or the birthday bash.
Well, and with the birthday bash coming in October already, with everything that's going to happen, October is the most wonderful month of the year because it's baseball postseason, in my opinion.
And Halloween, my personal Christmas, but
I have a real problem with Halloween stuff being out in the stores already, though.
Yeah.
Kids aren't even back in school yet. So let's wrap this up. Jim, again, the Twins one, I will get a chance to read that and watch the video that went with it. I'm sorry I haven't done that as of yet, but it's been a crazy week. I have some vacation time coming, so I'm going to get into a bunch of stuff. It's actually starting the 7th of September. I am off until the 19th. So we will get some more content. Big Weekend itself content out, as I will have a Mets season to wrap up and a Buckeye season to ramp up. And the NBA will be here very soon. It's a great time to be a content creator, especially in the sports side of things, because we're going to get it done. So as always, JC Blue Note, where can you be found, sir?
We actually plugged the page a few minutes ago, jcbluenote24.blogspot.com. Mike will be able to add the links down below here after this gets posted to YouTube, Twitter at jcbluenote24. And we've actually got a couple of things in the pipe. Maybe want to try and get something out here this weekend. A lot of the digital content creation is done with working on that logo and finalizing the Wise Guys page on my blog. So I will be able to crank out a lot more content and really just trying to line stuff up for future Wise Guys. We haven't even finished this one, and I'm already starting to think of ideas of how to improve the next one.
Same here. And as always, Big Rican can be found here on the Big Rican YouTube channel. Restream allows me to put it on my personal Facebook page, Mike Martinez. Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Google, Spotify as one of the video podcasts once I get this up. And, of course, just ask Alexa, play Big Rican. And I think we're going to go to Twitch. Even my personal stuff's going to go to Twitch. So, Jim, it has been a pleasure as always, sir. And I will be in touch throughout, probably probably tomorrow, actually, just because we got series wrapping up. You can let me know how the guards are doing. I'll let you know how the Mets are doing. And we will come to you in the next few weeks. As I mentioned, Jim will be on it'll be a Big Rican episode, but Jim will be on it. We will preview the season opener, the most anticipated season opener, maybe this entire college football season, as Notre Dame will come to the Horseshoe on September the 3rd, be the national game of the week on ABC, maybe for the last time. Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Enjoy. I can guarantee you there will be no content the weekend of the 26th as Stephanie and I celebrate our 11th wedding anniversary. And I'm not allowed. I don't want to put content out that weekend because I'm going to get yelled at. No, because it's our weekend.
Right.
Have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us, everybody who did. Jim, I will see you and talk to you soon. Take care, everybody. Let's go, Mets.